Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all can hear me now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Sir, we can hear.
Thank you very much. Because there's some disturbance also coming, because there are about 3 temples within a distance of 50 meters from my house, and there are some Katina Puja and some noise going on. So my apologies, but I will speak louder. And as Dr. Mrs. Kurupu mentioned, I must thank the library staff, including Dr. Pradeepa Vijayatunga, who gave the invitation at the beginning of the year. Then I promised that I would make a presentation the latter half of this year, and also the other members of the library, including Mr. Ramanan, librarian of the Faculty of Technology. I can take maybe a little over half an hour for presentation, because there's a discussion also, I was told. I basically, now in the university, I think with the leadership of the Vice Chancellor, we are talking about this research and development part, and also to increase the visibility of the university. And the library is playing a role. They are maintaining a research repository. At the meantime, they are trying to revive the journal, University of Colombo Review, and many steps are being taken. So I thought that this would be a suitable topic under these circumstances. So I will just move forward, and I will start. As you are all aware, university is a well-defined entity. Now I basically use these 2 sections from the Wikipedia, which has a citation to Encyclopedia Britannica also. So university is an institution of education and research, which awards academic degrees in different academic disciplines. And university comprises a community of teachers and scholars. So as you all know, it is different from a school where you find teachers, but we have scholars. And scholars have a knowledge that is very deep in a particular discipline, and they are well versed in that discipline. So that is very different compared to what we find in schools, where they basically disseminate knowledge, prepare the students by providing knowledge that is existing. So a scholar with his knowledge is in the process of generating knowledge. And there's a third entity also that is coming up in our Sri Lankan education system, the so-called, we use this term, tutories, tuition classes, which also have become educational institutes now. So that's another entity that we have in this country. I will talk about those later. Then in a few slides, I want to go to the role of a university as seen by one of the eminent scholars and leaders from global leaders. That is, I just want to share with you the excerpts from a speech made by Professor David Naylor, who is the president of University of Toronto, at a forum. Why University of Toronto? That is a part of the Commonwealth, just like us. And also it is one of the top 3 universities in total research output. Harvard being the first, then Toronto, and then the University of Tokyo, according to Thomson Institute of Scientific Information. In addition to that, the next 3 slides, the content that I'm going to show you in the next 3 slides are quite relevant to us, fits into our thinking also, in my view, particularly to the academic programs of the Faculty of Technology. So I will share with you those graduates. What he thinks is that we have to have leaders who can face challenges in range of issues from climate to food to cyber security, and also who are equipped with convergent thinking across disciplines and creative and have the ingenuity and also being able to collaborate with others with good communication skills. So also the job of the university is to help build T-shaped individuals. That is, a person having a column of deep scientific, deep specific expertise capped by a substantial breadth of perspective. So we basically talk about a person having trained in more multidisciplinary and experimental learning and lots of opportunities for interactive problem solving inside and outside the classroom laboratory. Also having the ability to engage in collaborations with universities, industry, governments, and civil society alike. So according to him, every university graduate must have a perspective that is shaped by research and scholarship. In fact, I'm happy to say that the academic programs in the Faculty of Technology have been designed to have these T-shaped individuals who basically have specific knowledge in the subject. Then there is about 15% of curriculum coming from other disciplines. Then there is an industrial training program, and there's a year-long research program also. So somewhat into this requirement or this indication made by Professor Naylor. Then when it comes to research, obviously we all know that there is a fundamental research part and then an applied research part. And the pressure, I would rather say the social pressure, is very high on universities to make research, so that conduct research so that they can be translated to products and services. So there is a need of effectively translating and commercializing our research findings through incremental applied research. Yet, the fundamental research should never be forgotten, but encouraged. So I share the same view like Professor Naylor. So that is why I tried to highlight these 3 points. And there's another parameter that we always now talk about, the university ranking. So according to him and also according to us, not every university, college or polytechnic should have a strong focus on generating new knowledge. But university ranking basically tend perhaps by accident more than designed to value the research intensive institutions more than vocational colleges, polytechnics, undergraduate intensive universities, or comprehensive universities, which are known for their teaching and professional programs. So these 2 statements to me are very important. Basically, that will try to define the identity of a university like the University of Colombo, because in our society we also have similar educational institutes. We have polytechnics, we have educational institutes like Univotech, which basically help develop skills of students. Then we have these non-state higher education institutes. Basically, these places have evolved from what I mentioned, some of them at least, from what I mentioned earlier, the tuition or tutories. Some of those tutories have become educational institutes, and now they have evolved into non-state higher education institutes, and their job is to give degrees to their students most of the time by having partnerships with little known foreign universities. There are some universities or higher education institutes, private ones, they concentrate on research also. With the financial power, it is possible in basically in one day that they can become good universities. So there's a threat also, even though it is not imminent. There could be private universities that will be very strong in research and teaching. At the moment, it is not a threat, but basically in this background, I think we have to identify our role. So as basically President Naylor summarizes here, the world needs universities, particularly major research universities, to produce graduates with a new mindset. And also, I basically skip the second bullet and go to the third bullet point. The world needs universities in particular to make advances in discovery and knowledge translation, not only in and across the STEM disciplines. STEM, we have to understand what is meant by STEM: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. M is not for medicine, but at the interface of science and technology with a full range of other fields of research. So this is very important. So that is the sort of the vision that University of Toronto has. What I feel is that Colombo to Sri Lanka should be like Toronto to Canada, or Harvard to US, or Tokyo, University of Tokyo to Japan. So basically, I think University of Colombo must have a strong culture of teaching and research. So it is in this context, university ranking also becomes an important entity, even though it is not a perfect, which we don't think 100% accurate when it comes to ranking. So we have to be serious about ranking also. Then if I go to the previous slide where Professor Naylor talks about this fundamental versus applied research, I want to use this example here. Now, as you know, this slide simply explains the importance of fundamental research. Now, a place like CERN, the physicists mainly are looking for these forces of nature. So in this basically journey, they want to look at fundamental particles. So they work in accelerators which are kilometers long. There are several other accelerators distributed all over the world, including 2 or 3 in the US. But CERN is one of the major places where they are looking for these new particles, fundamental particles, to find the origin of Earth and so on. And it is during these experiments that World Wide Web basically was, I would say, invented by Tim Berners-Lee, who has become now Sir Tim Berners-Lee, because of the magnitude of these experimental stations, the scientists working at different experimental facilities, I would say stations, along the ring, which is kilometers long, they had to transfer their information from one station to the other. So they had to use a mechanism to transfer this data within the ring, within the accelerator facility, and also to their home laboratories at their home countries. So this was going to be a challenge, and it was Tim Berners-Lee who solved that problem by writing a proposal that you can see on your right-hand side. And basically, that is the beginning of the World Wide Web. He's responsible for introducing the terms like HTML, URL, then HTTP, all these terms associated with World Wide Web. With the development of the computer, now we are seeing the revolution that is taking place in communication technology all over the world. All these new platforms, Zoom, Teams, and so on, everything. Very use of those facilities right now also is a very good example. So deservingly now he has got this Sir title and he's now working at MIT. So that is a very good example. Irrespective of whether you do fundamental or applied research, there is always a chance that there will be a byproduct that will revolutionize the entire world. So that example will basically tell you the importance of the fundamental research. We can find plenty of other examples. Then when it comes to ranking, there are several ranking mechanisms. Basically, I will only use two ranking mechanisms. One is known as QS World University Rankings. Then we always talk about Times Higher Education Rankings. So if you look at these rankings closely, now for a university to be ranked highly, these rankers look at the academic reputation, employer reputation, faculty-student ratio, citations per faculty, international faculty ratio, and international students ratio according to QS World Rankings. Then Times Higher Education is very much similar, even though the terms are different. Teaching, research, citations, international outlook, then industry outcome. So if you just compare the two, now on QS, we have academic reputation, 40%. Then we have citations per faculty, 20%, add up to 60%. Times Higher Education, teaching and research combined is similar to academic reputation. Then citations, we have 30%. So again, we have basically similar type of evaluation criteria. Then industry income and international student, the contribution to those would be very little. So I think it is basically when it comes to ranking, we have to really seriously consider the reputation of the academics of our universities and the research output that will be responsible for the citations also. So if I just concentrate on the Times Higher Education ranking, I can elaborate it a little bit more. So for teaching, this 30%, reputation survey carries 15%, again the staff to student ratio, then important one, doctorate to bachelor's ratio, and doctorate awarded to academic staff ratio, it carries 6%. Separately, research, 30%, again reputation survey, research income. This income can come from products or even grants, then research productivity, basically the type of publications and the nature of those publications and so on. Then we have citations. So that is an indicator that looks at the university's role in spreading new knowledge and ideas. So research influence is measured by capturing the average number of times the university's published work is cited by scholars globally. That is also something important. Then of course, international outlook is important, then industry income. But we can see that not all the knowledge generated will give rise in the form of industry or in the form of commercialization. We all know that main responsibility of the university is to generate knowledge, and some of that knowledge will become useful maybe in years. Some will have an immediate impact. So these evaluators are very much aware of choosing their marks allocation professionally. They give very high priority to generation of knowledge, the reputation of the academics and citations, and it doesn't mean that they would not consider industry income at the other avenues of commercialization. So This is something we have to keep in mind. So basically, it highlights the importance of research by academics of a university. Then I can come to this part of the world. These few slides I got from one of my partners, Dr. Fui-Cheng Zhang from Nanyang University of Technology, who was kind enough to share these slides with me. Now, basically, now this is a very young university, which was in 1955 as a technical, basically service type university, which combined with University of Singapore and then became Nanyang Technological University in 1991. If you look at this university, what they try to highlight is total student population and also the number of PhDs that they have produced. And then also they want to give an indication about the full-time faculty. So we have 3,300 PhDs and a full-time faculty of 1,700 here. That means per faculty member, roughly there are 2 PhD students or they produce 2 PhDs. In addition, there's a research staff also, which I don't think we have in our university system. By doing this, by taking these steps, basically, they are trying to increase their research capacity. So at the beginning in 1990s, their job was to provide technology and services. But in 2000s, with the expansion, with the addition of other departments, faculties, schools, and so on, they have tried to basically concentrate, focus on knowledge and innovation. Knowledge and innovation means research and innovation. Research leads to generation of knowledge as well as new innovations. So basically, I think these are very good examples, University of Toronto and then this young university, the steps that they have taken to move up, not to basically have the higher ranking, but to become effective universities in the university system. So what I want to say is just to highlight the importance of research as a university. So due to these changes, we can see that NTU, for example, has I cannot move this. Now in 2000, we can see there's a rapid rise in their ranking. Now it is one of the youngest universities. So number 1, according to QS, top 50 universities under 50. 50 means 50 years. Number 11, according to QS World University Ranking overall. Then Times Higher Education, number 3 in terms of young universities. So many elevations that they have made due to their vision, where research plays an important role. So basically, that is what I want to highlight. I think our university, or in general, most of our old universities, I think this is very important. It is very important that we have a very strong culture of research. Stronger the culture of research, the pathway to knowledge and innovation will be bigger. And not all this knowledge and innovation that is basically generated would lead to commercialization. But stronger the culture, the chances for commercializing will be always higher. So I think I have basically taken these examples to draw your attention towards this culture of research that a university like University of Colombo or any other university should maintain. Now, if I go to the middle, the knowledge and innovation, now there's another important role that we have to play. Now, we can generate knowledge and innovation by doing research. Then it is very important that we disseminate them also properly so that they will be recognized by the community, university community, scientific community, other academics, and so on. So that is also a very important part under the culture of research. Now, how should we do it? So there are several ways. There are journals, there are local journals, there are internationally accepted journals, and there's a new group of journals known as predatory journals also. Now, we have to be very careful not to publish our findings in the predatory journals, because that will undermine the university, number one, and that will also undermine the researchers. So we have to, again, basically look for accepted journals in the world of research. So one such source that most of us find is the Scimago list of journals, in addition to the local journals that we have at university and at national level. So I just show you here the part of the first page of this source that any one of you can have a look at. First 10. So basically we have, this is basically these journals are ranked in order in terms of their quality. So we see medicine, then biology, then economics, materials, physics, and so on, all these disciplines here. Then I wanted to do an analysis in depth, because there are about 33,000 journals in this collection. So I collected samples, a significant amount, and this is the pattern that I was able to recognize. First, 1,000 journals. There is a sizable number of journals in medicine, almost a quarter, actually exactly a quarter of this pie. And of course, there are areas which are overlapping, because now the next one in brownish orange, agriculture, biology, biochemistry, and so on, including microbiology. So medicine and some of these areas would overlap. Then in gray, we have ecology, environment, science, energy. So basically, all these categories has a chance to overlap with others. Then we have physics and astronomy, material science. Again, there are some overlapping areas, chemistry and material science, and chemistry and physics also. Then earth and planetary science. Now we have social science and humanities in light blue. So this is the other area that what I show you here: business, management and accounting, then social science and humanities, including economics. Then we have psychology. Of course, psychology has some overlaps with psychiatry in medicine. Then earth and planetary science here. It overlaps, there are some overlaps with geography. So there are those overlaps. Social science and humanities overlaps with many of these categories. But what I'm trying to say is we have sizable number of journals in medicine. Then we have journals in STEMs. And then we have a reasonable number again from social science and humanities also. And then I looked at the other sections also, from 6,000 to 7,000, 12,000 to 13,000, 18,000, 19,000. Basically, top 60% of the journals, I look at the sections. So medicine still takes a sizable part, but we can see we all have a chance to publish in these journals. Then this one here is computer science. In computer science, the journals, we don't see many, but we see international conferences and conference proceedings where researchers can submit full papers. Those conferences are also ranked very heavily according to this Scimago journal ranking. So what I'm trying to say is it is not only STEMs, it is in other areas we have the opportunity to publish if we do good quality research. So it is very encouraging if we identify research problems, even mathematics. Mathematics, I had this belief that mathematics does not have too many journals to publish, but mathematics also has a reasonable number of journals. So that is something that is very encouraging to see. In this, basically in this list of journals, I found some Sri Lankan journals also in the latter 40%. I'm not sure about some of these journals. Sri Lankan, there's a journal on Sri Lanka, journal on child health, then Journal of National Science Foundation, I know it is there. Then Sri Lanka Journal of Social Sciences. Then there's another journal that is on agricultural sciences. Then Resource Recovery and Rescue, a book series. All these are listed there because they are considered or they are identified as good journals that are indexed. So this is the situation with regard to ability to publish the research work. So in my view, irrespective of the discipline, if we do good research, we have the chance to publish. That is my basically opinion about this research under different disciplines, because I had this belief that it is hard to publish in areas like mathematics. That is not the case. Then also, I think we have a responsibility to, by doing good research and publishing, try to elevate these journals and get other journals. For example, we can think of University of Colombo Review type journals to get this level. That is another challenge that we have. So to meet these challenges, again, what we have to do is to have a very strong research culture and continue to do the research, continue to engage in research, which any one of us can do. Then I can share with you my own experience, because I don't consider myself a very active researcher, but I have managed to engage in modest research throughout my academic life. And first, as at the introduction, Dr. Kurupu mentioned, I researched on these energy materials. Now, I will just give a brief introduction without going into too much technical details. Now, these energy materials are basically referred to as solar energy materials, and these are semiconductors. Now, in a survey done by some scientists of US Geological Survey, they have identified 23 different semiconductor materials that you see here in blue dots, as well as circles, some in the red, some in red color in the first quadrant. Basically, they are looking at two parameters: cost for extraction, that is one, then ability to supply electricity worldwide on annual basis. So there are some materials where the cost for extraction is very high, and also ability to support electricity worldwide on annual basis very poor. That will go to the third quadrant here. Then there are some here, basically they are good in terms of the extraction cost, but not good in ability to support annual electricity the world over. So by identifying elements or the compounds in the first quadrant, what they show is the suitability of them as materials that are very good in terms of extraction as well as ability to support energy needs of the world. So as many of us know, silicon is there, but there are other alternate semiconductor materials. Some of them are here, copper-based semiconductors, then lead, amorphous silicon, iron sulfide, and so on. And we have been researching on this material even before this publication came, this cuprous oxide, because we have found this cuprous oxide would be a good energy absorber, good solar energy absorber. And we have found techniques to deposit or fabricate this cuprous oxide in the thin film form using simple low cost technique, that is electrochemical deposition. So while continuing research on photovoltaics, we got an undergraduate because it is photosensitive, it is sensitive to light. We got an undergraduate to develop a light sensor using this. It was an undergraduate project. And with his ability to, he's very good in instrumentation, he was able to develop a flux meter, or the lux meter. We call it lux meter because light intensity is measured in terms of luxes. That is as good as a commercially available lux meter. So that really led us to understand its sensing properties. So then in around 2010, this took place, and then we decided that we can basically try to see the potential of cuprous oxide as a sensor material, not only as an energy material. So the next basically is a little bit of an introduction about sensors, because it is a very important field. Sensors are everywhere. Sensors at domestic level to sensors used in robotics. So they appear in different forms. There could be chemical sensors, physical sensors, some kind of a physical property or change in reaction can be used to build sensors. So this is a very important area. So we continued our research in this area, temperature sensors, humidity sensors, all that which are important in agriculture. So what happened was we basically used oxide semiconductors. So cuprous oxide was the number one. So this diagram basically shows there are other oxides that one can use, that have been used. But use of cuprous oxide was something novel in my view. So we tested its ability to sense not only gases, but also very, very small, minute amount of glucose. So this curve basically shows the outcome of this work. In the group, I hired 3 students. Two of them were students who did undergraduate projects with me. There was another students. Then with those undergraduate projects, we noticed the feasibility of continuing research in this area. So basically, at the beginning, we published their works. That light sensor I mentioned to you earlier was also published, even though it was an undergraduate project. It was accepted by a peer-reviewed international journal, Electronic Devices. Later on, there were 3 grants for all 3 students, one from the University Grant Commission, one from University of Colombo, this 3 million grant, and also one from National Research Council, NRC. But if you look at this progress made by the students. All three students managed to publish their good works in reputed international journals. And if you look at the top four here, they all basically in the top 10% of journals within that Scimago ranking scheme. So what I'm trying to say is that we can start our research little at undergraduate level. Once the scope of the problem is understood, once the feasibility is basically realized, we can extend the research beyond the undergraduate level and go to PhD level and get them published in highly reputed international journals. In fact, I noticed another thing is that the last three publications here, all three students who have graduated have got them published very well after their graduation. What I'm trying to say is well after the periods that were covered by the grant. So because then they have finished their experimental work and they had time to concentrate on their publishing, and they turned out to be very good publications. And that also basically lead us to think that now, just like what I showed you in a previous slide about Nanyang Technical University, that they boast of research staff. I think it is time that these universities think about the positions at postdoctoral research level after finishing the projects to continue the research and write publications and write meaningful proposals to continue the productivity. Their help would be very useful. Postdoctoral associates. That is something that we don't have in this university system. So this is just a simple example to basically encourage some of our young academics that once we think of a research problem, we can start little. We can start things at undergraduate level, but we can continue, and then the inertia basically drives you to go into deeper research that would be publishable in high quality journals. So that is the message that I wanted to give. And in fact, I feel highly satisfied about these three students also. They are coming from little known schools, not from big schools. One came from Padukka Siri Tiyaratana Vidyalaya, another from Agalawatta Mihindu Mahavidyalaya. The third one is from Kaludara, actually, Kaludara Balika House. But they are very confident. They have become very confident individuals, still continuing their research, contributing to the research culture of universities, because all three of them are now, except for one, well, all three of them are working in universities, one working on temporary basis. So that is something I wanted to share with you to encourage you that one can engage in research starting little from any discipline with the help of undergraduates, then expand into higher levels. Then going to Faculty of Technology, I realized that that is a good place where this sensor research can be expanded, because we have a Department of Environmental Technology, then Department of Agricultural Technology, we have Instrumentation Automation Technology, and another department, Communication and Information and Communication Technology, Computers, Environment, Agriculture, Instrumentation and Automation. So plenty of scope for us to engage in research that are going to be useful. And this is not something that he wrote. These ideas came from the departments combined to use sensors for different applications. So I was very happy to see that because there is a scope for us to do this research in these areas in under any discipline. There is another product, another interesting development I want to share with you. Now, research and teaching complement each other. Teaching complements research, research complements teaching. So I have always made it a habit to basically include a research question to our senior students in physics. And at certain times we have gone beyond that level. Now, this is basically a question that appeared in one of the A-level papers. Now in physics, there is this question where one has to read the small section of a paragraph and then understand and answer simple questions. I would reiterate, simple questions. And sometimes we have this challenge to design questions so that tuition masters won't be able to guess. The knowledge of research will basically help us to give very good original questions, and that is also very helpful. So that's another basically outcome that I like to show you because they go hand in hand, research and teaching. So basically, it is the culture that we have. We already have a very strong research culture in the University of Colombo, but to stand out compared to other non-state higher education institutes and then polytechnics and other degree awarding places, I think we have to maintain a very strong research culture, and that will contribute to development of knowledge and innovation, obviously lead to national and global development. I did not mention commercialization here. That is also an outcome. Then it will help us elevate ranking. That will provide international recognition to our university. And obviously, it will be recognized in the region. That will help us to attract the students from the region, because international students are also an important component. Then obviously develop our own career rewards. So whether you use the top-down approach or bottom-up approach, it is not relevant. Normally, people of the leader type use the top-down approach. Then there are individuals who use the bottom-up approach. Irrespective of which way one uses, doing research, having a strong research culture, irrespective of discipline, would help elevate the university and would help us to produce a complete graduate. So that is the message that I want to give. And finally, I want to conclude basically by quoting another eminent leader. Apparently useless research turns out to be surprisingly useful. This is a statement made by Jean-Luc Camus, that is former president of Caltech. So I think we must always think of good research problems and evaluate the problem based on merit rather than applications, and encourage the researchers to continuously engage in research so that we can transfer that knowledge to students to make them confident individuals, as well as transfer that knowledge to society so that there will be meaningful outcomes. I think with that, I would like to stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, now this session is open for questions and answers. And you are mostly welcome to submit your questions, and you can ask any question from Professor Jayanthi now.
I have no idea of the participants at the moment. Okay, now I can see at least a number here. So anyone can, it is basically open to discussion if anyone has questions.
Excuse me, sir. I'm from the medical library, actually. Sorry for my naive knowledge on the university ranking systems. I just wanted to ask that there's a high enthusiasm these days in the Faculty of Medicine to portray student research in the institutional repository platform. So
Yes.
what is the impact on student research on the university ranking system, sir?
Well, it is, we don't have to categorize that as student research or academic research or anything. Any good research, if you can make them visible, I think that will help, because any good research finding done by either students or established scientists, if it is citable, people would cite. So visibility would be important in that sense.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Good evening, Professor Jayanthi. I'm Panduka Karnanayaka from the medical faculty.
Good evening, Panduka. Yes.
But I'll ask a question just to get the ball rolling a little bit more, perhaps.
Yeah.
A very interesting presentation, especially about the ranking. It was very helpful for me also. I just wonder, when you take our postgraduates and students' research capabilities, has anyone done anything to find out what are the difficulties they face as young researchers? And if so, do you know what the findings have been? I'm sure you will have your own personal experience to share with us, but in addition to that, whether anyone has done a systematic study to see whether they have difficulties with language or whatever.
I think I would answer your question partially. Now, as members of the Research and Development Committee of the University of Colombo, we identify certain difficulties that they go through. But in terms of numbers, like a survey, I don't have good numbers to answer, but even a survey was done. But with regard to language, we haven't conducted a proper survey. But when I interacted with these students, I realized that I basically highlighted that these students who worked with me recently came from little known schools. They had this language issue, but with time, they basically develop, because we get them to, as much as possible, write papers, and then we correct. But it is an issue. I know language is an issue, but they can improve with time. That is my answer to that as far as language is concerned.
Yeah, thanks. I have heard that Japan allows the universities to conduct their work in Japanese. And
yes.
At the same time, they are in the top of the ranks in these ranks as well in some of the universities.
Yes.
How have they managed that?
That's a very good question. I think they allow students to conduct their research, and they even write the thesis in Japanese. But I am pretty sure they have translated versions also. I can give you an example, because I made a presentation a few years back in Japan at the Japan Society of Applied Physics. All the program and everything, abstracts, were in Japanese language. But when it came to people like us, there was an English version also available for us.
Nice. You mentioned that you in the research committee of the University of Colombo, you were able to identify some of the difficulties they had. Never mind the numbers, but what were they qualitatively? What were they in nature?
No, the basic problems that we have come across was, now we get these progress reports from time to time. Sometimes when we order the chemicals, there is a delay.
Yeah.
When equipment are ordered, again there are delays. So these typical red tapes.
Yeah.
So then they will start their work late. So
Yeah.
steps have been taken to basically help those. Then there are other delays, like some students have their own personal issues sometimes, then leave the project, and then the supervisor is going to be in trouble. So those are the type of problems that we have come across at that research committee level.
Mhm.
Because supervisor also has a good responsibility towards a student, and it should be, and vice versa, basically. Student also has a high responsibility.
Yeah.
It's a possibility that if that link breaks, that will lead to problems. The others are basically typical problems due to some delays in acquiring equipment and so on. I'm sure in the Faculty of Medicine, there are maybe cases like that.
Yes, I have also heard my colleagues say that there are big difficulties about ordering equipment and all that kind of thing. Yes, you are right. Because nowadays consumables are mostly purchased by credit cards and I mean various practical issues like that. Yes, they are very problematic. Yes.
Yeah. The problem that we have is our system is not flexible, I think, right? But we cannot make the system too flexible also, because the threat that some people might misuse it. So, we have to play that balance game. That is the issue.
Yeah. You mentioned about the T-shaped academic. That was very interesting in the Faculty of Technology. So you said that you devote 15% of the curriculum time for, I would imagine, subjects which are not the mainstream subjects. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Because we have about, I would say about, close to, 7-8 courses coming from different areas, including one course from medicine.
Mm-hmm.
There's one from law, social science, then management, and so on. These are coming from different areas.
Mm-hmm.
So that is to provide them with basic knowledge in other disciplines. Then there is a set of courses known as common courses that are within the faculty. Then there is a set of courses that are coming from specifically from the degree that area. So that is how it is designed. And then every student has to go through this 6-month industrial training and plus 1-year research project. So at the moment, I think we have these difficulties of not having sufficient number of staff, but I think if we can run this program, that will be basically very useful.
Yeah. I will now hand over to the others to ask some questions.
Thanks. Thank you, Pandit.
So I'm Kurupu from library. So I think that you try to emphasize how much is important the selection of journal to publish the materials, publish the research findings.
No, I think, I think when I say selection of journals,
because of you consider the 25% medicine journals in that, then the other criteria.
What I try to show is the amount of journals that are available to publish your work under different disciplines.
Yes.
So in this identified citation index journal, there's a large number of journals in the field of medicine.
Yes.
It basically dominates. It's very natural to have journals in medicine, and then that's such a number. But there are journals in other areas also. Also, there is a new development. That is recognition to field of computer science is also increasing. And in general, anyone from any discipline has the ability to publish in recognized journals.
Yes.
That is my, that's a statement that I wanted to make.
Thank you, sir. It's mean when we select the journal, we have to select the ranking journals. No?
I mean, it's always better to, because we like to see our work recognized by the researchers world over. So that basically encourages us to publish our work in international journal. It does not mean that we should not publish in local journals, but the visibility will become higher when we publish our work in international journals. That will be good for the university also, because it will increase the visibility of the university, and that will help us attract even foreign students. So it is like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
It does not mean that we should not maintain journals like University of Colombo Review. What I am suggesting is that we have to have good research that can be published in UOC Review also, to elevate its status to a higher level. Professor Panduka Karunanak, I think, is a member of the editorial board, so maybe he has a comment to make.
Thank you for mentioning that. Actually, we know that there are lots of even faculty level journals of for various subjects. So what the UCR is trying to do is we are trying to consciously avoid any competition with these journals, because we will not advance as a university by having more journals competing for the same number of papers.
Correct.
What we are doing is we are actually doing something different. We are giving space for people to write different kind of articles, which those journals will not probably accept, but which are important for the culture of scholarship and research. Now, for example, it won't be a paper based on some empirical findings, some original research or something, but it might be a good review article, a good systematic review of the subject that you are going to do for your MPhil or PhD or sometimes. Or it could be commenting on a trend or a future event, or something like the trends and future predictions, or something which journals will not usually welcome those articles, but they are also important for us to to write, to read, to share, to learn about the world, and often it improves our understanding. If a senior person writes an article like that with a lot of references and a lot of insight, then we will all benefit by reading that. It's like meeting the person over a cup of tea and having a long chat. So that's the sort of articles that we want the UCR to have, because there's no space for those things. And we are not trying to compete with other journals, because there's now virtually a journal for every faculty in every university. Looking for these original articles. So this is going to be a useless competition, really. None of these journals will be able to hit the mark eventually, because they are going to become so separate, so divided and diluted.
Yeah, that is another area that we have to be very careful about. I'm not very much in favor of having journals at every faculty level, because I think if now, for example, we have University of Colombo Review, we can have something like that, because we have a journal of National Science Foundation to publish scientific work. Then Peradeniya has Ceylon Journal of Science. So we have plenty of local journals to which we can publish our work, and on top of that, we have lots of international journals. So I don't know, having journals at the faculty level would help much in that sense, other than to publish work of, say, undergraduates. That is my thinking, because that might dilute the research efforts that the university, basically academics, are looking for. That is my personal view. that might even lead to mediocrity in my